So the air vents. You're about to go into the cable ducts, which is a new variant of the air vent. You had the same air vents throughout the entire game in the XHR, and we certainly realized that this is kind of annoying. There's this manufacturer which does the air vent for the entire planet.
I don't know. I like hanging out in air vents.
Yeah. So we did this new version, which is kind of the IT guys version of the air vents with cables and computers all the way in there. It was from a gameplay request at first that you have this hackable air vent, and it kind of makes sense. But yeah, from now on we're going to try to have way more variety in narrow passageways for you players.
Be advised, senior personnel should report to Security Central for biometric scan.
Here, if you look at the environment, you're seeing it's a good example of our new way of modeling environment after HR. After HR, all the artists were kind of sick of doing it the old ways. It was kind of an annoying way to work. So we have this environment which has a lot more polygons in it instead of textures. And if you look at the floor, you see that everything is kind of modeled a bit. Instead of mapping individual mechanical lines, we're giving a lot more volumes to the environment. We can actually push off a lot of polygons in this engine, and we didn't use that enough in the original game. We really used polygons to the max in that game. It enabled us to work much faster and create more interesting environment. The volume is there. It's just more interesting, and mainly if you think it's ugly, I don't really care. No, I do care, but it's an interesting way of working.
It's not ugly.
And it's not
beautiful.
really ugly.
I
Thanks.
think it's beautiful.
Thanks. I have my own complex, and yeah.
So earlier I talked about how complex the dialogues were to write for The Missing Link because they had to react to a lot of variables. The conversation with Quinn is by far the most complex of all the conversations we had to write because there were many, many things going on. Because we gave the player access to the base, because we allowed you to play the objectives in the order you want, first we had to realize that if you did not talk to Netanya, he couldn't be here. So we had to put up like a gone fishing sign, which was also a hint that he was actually on the boat waiting with you earlier. But then we also had to basically, for his dialogue, include all of these possible reactions to how you treated people in the base, whether you killed a lot of people in the base or not. We had to actually add to it a side quest because this Quinn gives you this optional side quest. So we had to have all these strings of dialogues that react to whether you found the pieces, whether you accept the dialogue. We also had to make allowances for if the player gets the social aug, then you can use the social aug against Quinn to, I forget exactly what the point was for that, but like maybe you would get cheaper prices or something like that. And we also had for Quinn the fact that if you did the optional secondary objective inside the cargo boat, he would have to react to that. And we also, because again, we had all the ways that you could complete this, you could actually see Natanya, go into the base, do a lot of the missions for her without ever seeing Quinn. And so we had to kind of take into account for that, and we had to take into account whether you get an objective later on with this eye and come back. So this was one of those conversations that really had to be fully graphed out long before we even started writing it. And then add to that the character of Quinn himself and the flavor. So this one was a lot of fun and a lot of challenge to write, and to act it out as well.
Do you need some water at this point?
Are you Quinn?
Yeah, that's me. Jensen, is it? You weren't followed, were you?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I can believe that. They're having a hell of a time keeping up with you.
Yeah, I like to play it by ear. Whatever works, works.
Practical man, aye. Just keep doing whatever you're doing. Maybe you won't bring the base down around my ears.
Look, Keitner said you can help me. Can you?
Yeah, she told me to be expecting you. I'm just glad you came as soon as you did instead of going off on your own. There's enough kegs of powder lying around here already without throwing another loose cannon in the mix. You know how much we're risking to keep you off the radar? We've only got so much pull around here. It's Burke's show, and he'll do as he bloody well pleases, which means stamping out any rats the moment he gets wind of them.
I'm grateful, but can we get on with it? I understand you run a nice little sideline in procurement.
Aye. From time to time you might say being inclined to do a little, how should we call it? Bartering. On the side. Since the commander signed off on it, I suppose I could open my stock to you. For a price, that is.
You mean I have to pay?
What? Of course you have to bloody well pay. I ain't exactly a fucking armory quartermaster down here. I'm just a civvy contractor trying to make ends meet. This ain't a bleeding charity.
Considering the circumstances.
Circumstances? What, that you're a fugitive and I'm risking my neck just talking to you? What are you trying to pull here? Although, I don't suppose you had anything to do with the stasis pod that was saved back in the ship.
How do you know about that?
Ah, so it was you, eh? Well, let's just say I have my sources and your little random act of kindness didn't go unnoticed. Tell you what, I'll give you a discount on me wares. Just no freebies or handouts. But now that I think of it, if you're looking for a little something for nothing and don't mind a little legwork, I've got an errand that could use running. Consider it a special offer of sorts. Interested?
All right, tell me about this special offer.
Look, I don't know if you've noticed yet, but this base is packing some serious heat. Especially in the form of those walking brick shithouse boxcars. If you get me a few odds and ends, I might be able to whip up a little something to make getting around easier, if you catch my meaning.
What kind of something are we talking about here?
Nothing fancy. Just a 329 series MPRS.
A rocket launcher?
That's right, mate. And custom built. By yours truly, of course. You see, while I might be able to get my fingers on some low-level arms, I'm a little restricted when it comes to military-grade bells and whistles. And I'm itching to try out a new trigger propulsion mix. Maybe even recalibrate the guidance system for some extra punch.
I'm not convinced jury-rigged explosives are exactly my style.
Look, I'm not telling you how to do your job or anything, but you might want to consider carrying a little extra insurance while you're here. Look, all you gotta do is find me some components. I'll do the rest. An earlier boat had a shipment of 329s, but I wasn't able to poach any of them before they made it to the armory. Luckily, little Sparrow in my employ managed to lose one through maintenance circulation, but he got himself shit canned before I could collect. Now my little bute's lying around the base somewhere in bloody pieces. The launcher, I mean, not the wee man. Though, no idea really happened to him.
Right, so, long story short, you need me to find the parts and bring them back to you.
Yeah, that about sums it up, I'd say. Just find me the trigger module, scope assembly, and launcher barrel. And and we're in business. I could scrape up the rest from leftovers here in the shop.
I'll see what I can find. Any idea where they are?
If I knew that, I would have picked them up myself. You're just gonna have to make do and keep your nose to the ground. Check the obvious places first, like the cargo and receiving areas. Worst case, someone found one of the parts and brought it to administration. I looked there last.
Got it.
No money back guarantee or warranty. You break it, you buy it. No refunds.
So right in front of you are the entrance to the detention center, and if you open those doors, you're about to come into another space. And we had to create, at this point in the game, a choke point. We wanted to open up the gameplay from the linear aspect of the cargo ship, and yet we needed to ensure that you didn't get inside the prison before you meet Netanya. So this created a lot of story issues for us, especially since when we were working on the story, we thought you wouldn't even be able to get into the base before you saw Netanya. But in actuality, you could get through the base, you could get all in through this area that you've been exploring and get all the way to this door and not have seen Netanya. So a lot of the decisions that get made when we're creating the game and creating the levels is how can we create these choke points and how can we make them make sense with the story. And in this instance, we were able to make the SACE make sense because obviously Netanya has to give you some kind of a key or program your DNA into the SACE so that you can get into there, but you won't be able to do that until you've seen her. But some of these things were a lot of the difficulties we had in trying to maintain the freedom and flexibility of a Deus Ex experience and yet still keep a tightly controlled story.
Running.
Activating security scan.